Tulsi Gabbard slams Kamala Harris for putting on a political ploy during the debates. In effect, what she is literally doing and calling what Kamala Harris did a political ploy, in and of itself a political ploy. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. And yes, one Tulsi Gabbard, who's the anti-war candidate in the race, the clear, definitive anti-war candidate in the race. The candidate that when she went after Tim Ryan, when he was kind of making this policy of we have to stay engaged in the Middle East, went after him. And in her going after him, people were like, who's this person? Who's this person? Who's this person? But if you remember, Kamala Harris also had one of those show out moments when she went after Joe Biden. Now, that was on a different night, but she went after Joe Biden because Joe Biden made those comments about civility, and in making comments about civility, used outright, in the day shine, no shirt on, racist, to make his point. Now, if you remember, Kamala Harris hit him on this. Cory Booker hit him on this. Bernie Sanders hit him on this. Elizabeth Warren hit him on this. All of these people were politically astute enough to realize that Joe Biden made a mistake and to capitalize on the mistake. Tulsi Gabbard, her brand being, I am above politics, did not. She backed Biden. And not just backed Biden, she's now taken an additional step of attacking Kamala Harris for doing so, saying that what Kamala Harris was doing was a political ploy and a political stunt. It was, yes. Everything that Tulsi Gabbard is saying here is absolutely, completely right. But let us be very clear, and let us also be somewhat politically astute, that in her taking this position, she is also being political. Anywhere you go is where you at. There is no such thing as being outside of ideology. All you got is what you got. And in this case, her going after Kamala Harris, saying that she was being overtly political in doing so, is literally in the process of her going after Kamala Harris for being overtly political, is being overtly political also. It's not that I take issue with it. I'm just kind of pointing it out more than anything else. Let's take a look at Tulsi doing her thing, stepping away from the anti-war stuff, which apparently is not catching fire. She has to go to something else. Taking a shot at Kamala Harris.
This accusation that Joe Biden is racist. Can you tell us exactly what your issue is with how the senator is handling this?
Well, exactly what I said there. Levying this accusation that Joe Biden is racist when he's clearly not, as a way to try to smear him. And as you point to the article that I linked to in my tweet, really what she's saying is her position is the same one that she was criticizing Joe Biden for.
Everything Tulsi Gabbard's saying here is absolutely 1,000% correct. Kamala Harris, I would wager to you, was in her debate prep, and she said, we need to put a knife in Joe Biden. Now, here's the catch. Let her finish first. But all of this gets a so what? But there's nothing wrong with Tulsi doing this, and Tulsi should do this, by the way. So let's hear her out.
So this is just a political ploy, and I think a very underhanded one, just to try to get herself attention, to move herself up in the polls. I think that we need to be above that, all of us.
And Biden has also said that he would rather talk about the future instead of talking about the past. And some perhaps might wonder if the party is focusing a little too much on the issue of race at the expense of some other issues. Would you share that concern?
This goes beyond the point that I want to talk about. She says, I think it's an underhanded ploy with this notion of trying to get attention and to pull herself up in the polls. Now, Kamala Harris at the time was, I think, like 5th, 6th in the polls. I consider her to be a dark horse in the race. You know what Kamala Harris is now? 3rd place. Firmly in 3rd place. You know what Tulsi Gabbard is? I think maybe 1%, maybe at most 2%. Now, it's fair to say that Tulsi Gabbard wasn't necessarily known by the American population. That is true. But your goal is to become president of the United States. That's your objective. That's your overarching objective. Kamala Harris, who's in 4th place in this, looks at this and says, I need to get more attention to myself. And my political opponent, who's trying to become president of the United States, all of us are in this race, has just messed up. We are in a Democratic primary. In this country, 13% of the population is black, and that 13% votes Democrat 90% of the time. That African-American population with a complicated history in this country where it underwent slavery, Jim Crow laws, our own Nazis in the form of segregationists and Klansmen. And Joe Biden has just raised the hands of these segregationists, these Klansmen, these out-and-out racists who hates the fact that I even exist, let alone exist in this country. Raise their hands. The heights of segregation, the heights of civility. You're in a political race. Why wouldn't you hit him? Why shouldn't you hit him? Why is it not right to represent the interests of the 13% of the population that vote, 90% of which vote Democrat? That on their half that looks at this and says, oh, this is ugly. We don't like you raising the hand of segregationists for the heights of civility. Can you use somebody else? Maybe John McCain. He's a war hawk. He's a warmonger. He's a Republican. Can you use him as a heights of civility? Why do you have to go to these out-and-out racists? Why shouldn't Kamala Harris hit him on that point, since he was the one that raised that point? And let alone hit him on that point, go further into his political career on this notion of busing. It is not just what she should do for political reasons. She should do it because it's just right to do in that race to represent that constituency. Is it possible for Tulsi Gabbard to hit Joe Biden also and kind of makes this point of, look, I wish Joe Biden wouldn't have used these outright races in order to make his point of civility, but his point of civility needs to be heard. That would have been a perfectly political, palatable position to take. However, the problem with that position is it puts you firmly in like the third and fourth, fifth, sixth person to kind of make that hit on Joe Biden, and it doesn't distinguish you from the field one iota. My point here is don't be clowned and fooled into believing that what Tulsi Gabbard is doing is not politics. What Tulsi Gabbard is doing is politics. It's her politics. It's her politics for the position that she's carved out for herself in this race. I am above it all. But in the process of trying to say that you're above it all, you are in the thick of it. God, I love it. I love it. But this is a very specific point. I'm not going to keep this video long. She slams Kamala Harris for this. I just want to be very clear with you, however, that in slamming Kamala Harris for this, she is being absolutely 100% factually correct. The problem is her being correct does not matter one iota. This is a political race. This is a political game. There were all sorts of people watching on that night where she took Joe Biden on a debate stage. Not many people are going to look after the day or 2 days after that says Kamala Harris' position is pretty much the same as Joe Biden. What they remember is her taking him apart on that debate stage and Joe Biden standing there having to take it. Just carving into one Mr. Ex-President Joe Biden. It doesn't matter that you're right here, Tulsi Gabbard. It does not right that Kamala Harris was being overtly political. It does not matter that Kamala Harris was in her debate room coming up with this trap, and that when Joe Biden walked into this trap, she was licking her lips and licking her chops like this. Because what matters is she is now number 3, firmly number 3, tied with Elizabeth Warren. Her objective was accomplished in that debate. I will put to you that right now, you're trying to accomplish an objective. In the same way that Kamala Harris was able to take a knife, put it into Joe Biden, drag herself up. You are trying to do the same thing to Kamala Harris, who is firmly in third place right now, by creating a crisis or a conflict with one of the leaders in the race, who is now Kamala Harris. You are now trying to do the exact same thing that Kamala Harris did for the exact same political effect. You've learned fast. Congratulations. By the way, Kamala Harris is very focused on what she's trying to accomplish here. It's not that I like her, but hitting her on this and slamming her on this is tantamount to doing the exact same thing that she is doing. If you believe that there are other higher issues that we need to talk about, then we can talk about those issues. But the fact of the matter is, whether I like Kamala Harris or not, her hitting Joe Biden, all of these guys hitting him, was politically astute and correct. Joe Biden is carrying the black vote. Kamala Harris is the African American that was on that debate stage. Kamala Harris wants that black vote. How else do you carve that black vote out of Joe Biden as to bringing up Joe Biden's previous history in regards to putting black bodies in prison, working with a segregationist Strom Thurmond, and working with these other people who are working against civil rights? Why wouldn't you bring that up? Why wouldn't that be politically astute to bring that up? Why wouldn't you bring that up even in defense of a population, even if you want to bring it up in a very particular way? Meaning, again, you can hit Joe Biden on this, but still come away with his civility lesson is right. By the same token, Joe Biden shouldn't be used segregationist to make this point. I guess my point is, you are also being political. Kamala Harris is not doing anything wrong on this. Nor, by the way, is Tulsi Gabbard doing anything wrong for slamming Kamala Harris on this. This video is not to wag a finger at Tulsi Gabbard. It's mostly to just kind of bring it up. All of this is overt politics. All of these people are being overtly political because guess what? They're in a political contest. They're in a political race. The goal of which is to win the primary, secondary, to win the presidency. She's slamming Kamala Harris because she's supposed to slam Kamala Harris. Her brand is overtly unpolitical, but you got to be political to be that way. Same thing is true with Kamala Harris going after Joe Biden. She is being overtly political, but the goal of this is to win the presidency, and her objectives in moving up in the polls was found it to be correct. Now, Tulsi Gabbard needs to bring herself into relevance, and this has been the pathway that she's decided to do this. That debate was, a week or two ago, and Tulsi Gabbard is still talking about it. She's talking about it because she's trying to use the same motif that Kamala Harris used, while wagging her finger at Kamala Harris for using that motif. God, I love politics. I fucking love politics. I love it, I love it, I love it. They can look in the camera and say stuff that is amazing and obscene or absurd in the way that they say it. And the media never says, well, aren't you using that exact same motif and going after Kamala Harris? I mean, that debate was weeks ago and you're still talking about it, Ms. Gabbard. Well, I mean, I just don't think, we should be trying to bring the country together. I know that. I get that. But isn't Kamala Harris, shouldn't she do that? Why isn't it her right? How do you even know that she's being overtly political in this? Why don't you think that she may care about this as an African American? There are all sorts of questions that could be asked the moment that Tulsi Gabbard takes this position. None of those are asked. All right, I'm not going to keep this long. I just wanted to point this out. This was just one of those tidbits of news that you kind of just look at and be like, interesting. Kills for a living. I knew you were out there somewhere. Of course, it's a ploy to get back in the race. Yes, Tulsi is so dumb. She continues to shield Biden. I guess she thinks she's going to win. Another dumb mistake. Biden has no shot, just like the other two times he ran. So kills for a living. I agree with you that Biden is not going to win. On the second point, I also agree with you that she's trying to claw her way back into the race using Joe Biden, using Kamala Harris. This issue is like, there's a attention focus on this issue. Let me try to elbow my way into this conversation in some way. I know a way that I could do it. I could try to be overtly unpolitical, or being completely political and trying to horn my way into this race. She's into the conversation. You don't hear them talk about the other people. It's her who's horned her way into this conversation. This conversation, by the way, is not about Tulsi Gabbard at all. Tulsi Gabbard is having a conversation about Biden and Kamala Harris, but at the very least, she's in the conversation. That's what matters. That's what matters. That's what matters. All right, kills for a living. I must have missed this one. Tulsi is polling at 1 to 2%. She's really making a run at the top. LOL. As I stated, for the 100th time, she's trash. I don't think she's trash. I think that's unfair. She has no shot. When she finally drops out, Tulsi stands won't even remember her. Fans won't even remember her. They will remember her. She's the only anti-war candidate in the race. Certainly, you can understand why people are pushing for her to stay in that race, because when she leaves that race, they will stop talking about those issues of war. Sanders will bring it up, but it's not his key policy proposal. It's hers. So I'm going to end this here. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through PayPal or Patreon. And look, Real Dark Legend, she says she knows that Biden is going to be at the top. I don't think that's it, Kills Dark. I think it's the other way around. I think she's trying to position herself as being apolitical. And in being apolitical, it is entirely true that Kamala Harris' attacks on Joe Biden were based in this notion of being politically oriented. That's true. Kamala Harris's position with Joe Biden is pretty much the same. That is also true. But this is more about separating herself from the field and I think getting attention. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is. Now, you could say there's a secondary thing of if Biden wins, Biden will remember the fact that she stood by him. I don't think Biden will remember the fact that she stood by him. Keep in mind, these are the people who have vilified and attacked her from the day that Tulsi Gabbard has gotten to the race. And she's thrown herself on the fire to essentially protect people who vilified and attacked her. I don't think that's good politically, nor do I think that's all that politically astute. And the fact that even Sanders sheepishly hit Biden on this should have got across that she should also hit him. 90% of African Americans vote Democrat. That should give you this kind of heads up of maybe I should side with the African Americans and hit Joe Biden for raising this as the heights of civility. That's all. Look, Biden was being politically tone deaf and racially insensitive. I don't think Biden is racist. I never went to that approach. I do think he's being politically tone deaf. Biden should not have gone this way. Biden should not have mentioned this in any terms of civility. And yet he did. He made a mistake. You hit him for it. You hit him for it. All right, I'll leave this here. All right, guys. Have a good one. I'll see you in a few. I have a few more stories for today. Thanks, everyone.